like this.
I don't like it. That's way too many options. Also, I think I'm capping the shit out of my audio, which is... You know what? I don't care. I'm just going to adjust it slightly and fine. Hello, welcome back to Titanic Talk Line, where I just cough unceremoniously in your ear and talk about nothing. I'm really excited because for the first time I'm doing an in-person recording. Hooray. And I think you're the first person I've had on that I actually know as a person outside of the context of the show.
Hooray!
Which is all hooray. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and maybe tell, like, maybe your abbreviated, like, Titanic story? We'll get more into it later, but, like...
Of course. So, my name is McKenna Kelly. What? I have been a Titanic enthusiast since the 5th grade. I was forced to write a report on it, and I found it fascinating. And then, maybe a year later, my hometown of Fullerton, California, had a Titanic exhibit in our little Fullerton museum, and it was...
Was that the traveling artifact exhibit?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Is. And I just remember the model in the middle of the room, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool, and then flash forward to when the movie came out, all my theater.
Can I just tell you that my dog never plays with his toys, but it's gonna happen today. That's fine. You're just gonna keep going. It's all good. I'm not gonna edit this at all. It's just gonna be coughing and dogs. It's fine.
Excellent. So anyways, flash forward when the movie came out, James Cameron's Titanic with Leo and Kate. My high school theater buddies and I were obsessed, and I think even when we went and saw it,
How old were you when you saw, when it came out?
I don't know. What year did it come out?
It came out in 97, or depending on when people saw it, in early 98.
Okay, so it actually would have been...
It's not super important. I happen to notice that a lot of people who do become obsessed with it, they usually...
It was 16.
Yeah,
so
know. It's people that saw it between the ages of, this is going to sound like I'm painting with a really broad stroke, but I'm not, but between the ages of 5 and 20 when you first saw it,
mm-hmm.
and especially women.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was I think you were in the prime Titanic
I was,
demo.
but I also had previous, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So it was really exciting to have an updated, state-of-the-art, mm-hmm. technically exciting at the time, version of it.
It still holds up pretty well.
Yes, it does. It does. Even 20 plus years later, it does. And I'm a stickler for details, so all of the cinematic visuals were fantastic, and so we were very excited. And in fact, when we went to the opening night, it wasn't anywhere fancy. It was our local AMC movie theater. And
I think I saw it in Germantown, Maryland.
So I saw it in AMC Fullerton.
There we go.
One of the camera crew people were actually in line wait because there was a line to get in. Back when you had to wait.
Day. No assigned seats.
No. So the
worst seats you could ever imagine sitting in.
Yes.
For 3 hours.
Yeah, but we were I was so excited. Mm-hmm. We were all excited. Anyways, one of the crew was on there, and so we actually waited through the whole movie, through the end of the credits, to see and cheer for that guy. I do not remember his name now, but thanks, dude. We totally waited for you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. And then flash forward a few years later, many years later, I was one of my kickball buddies, after college. I run a kickball league, and one of my kickball teammates worked for a production company that was looking for people who were actually fans of the Titanic. You can put in parentheses, not the movie. I was like, well, I'm a fan of both, but it's legit. Started in 5th grade.
I understand the necessity for differentiating. Differentiation if you're doing a specific kind of thing.
Yes. So I shot right back, and I was like, me. So
naturally,
and I didn't know what it was. He's like, oh, just come down to the American History Museum at Smithsonian. This Wednesday at noon. And I was like, sure. It
sounds like the plot of the beginning of an NCIS episode.
Yeah, but it wasn't. There were lots of people around. It's fine. No, and I trusted him. It's fine. But it was really exciting. I got to meet one of the curators from the Smithsonian, and they were filming. It was a pilot episode for a miniseries that they actually did get produced in the end. They said that my episode was one of the helper ones to make the green light for the rest of them, which got great budgets after ours. So I was like, oh, watching the other episodes. But I'm still very excited that I got to be a part of it. They did you had to take a quiz, and you had to, answer questions about different things, not just the Titanic. But in the end, they had a curator come, and initially they had me just looking at some of the artifacts in the Smithsonian American History Museum, which the one that was on display at the time was a Browning Kodak camera. And
oh yeah, okay.
Yes, so that camera took pictures of the survivors of the Titanic on the Carpathia. It was one of the passengers from the Carpathia's camera, and so the pictures, the negatives, they actually had the newspaper clippings, the negatives, and the camera all were donated to the Smithsonian. Really cool. It was very cool. And I sounded like a blubbering idiot. She took me upstairs in the really cool elevator. We went all the way upstairs to an archive room, and, took out her little white gloves, and she showed me amazing negatives of pictures that were taken of the site.
I saw that footage.
Yes.
You reposted or posted it?
Yeah, I post. Every time it comes around, because it was such a cool experience.
Well, fuck yeah, I would be sharing that every 22 minutes.
Yes, no, that was. So it was really cool because I got to see original negatives and newspaper clippings of that this woman had taken. It was a very young lady. Her name is Bernice. So it was just really cool to see that. And so they, recorded all of my reactions, which I'm so glad for post-editing, because I think they put together, I sounded like a normal human who wasn't like, this is so, oh my gosh. I was like, oh, this is cool. So at least I sounded like I could formulate sentences at the time. So
English
that was
is
nice.
my first language.
I promise. Yeah. No, it was just, I was speechless. So I had a hard time. It was so hard to show reverence but enthusiasm, because I was just so excited.
Understand.
But you're like, So.
I get it, because I went to the Titanic convention in Tennessee this year.
Yes.
And I don't normally socialize with many people just because I'm also shy, but apparently people find me intimidating. This is a thing that I am it's funny, I've been told it my whole life, but only just now at the age of 33 I'm it's finally sinking into my head where I'm like, wait, really? Anyway, we have to talk a lot about my therapy sessions to figure out that. But at this convention I met a really, really amazing person. His name is Craig. He's a collector, and he donates a lot of his items to various museums. And he introduced us to one of the curators of the Titanic museums, Paul Burns. And, they'd been, he brought Madeline Astor's life belt for us to see, which was amazing. And they were doing a talk. He was talking about this artifact and about how, in particular, this one's so well preserved because it never hit the water.
Right.
Which makes sense. And somehow Craig talked to Paul and got, me viewing sounds weird because it's not dead, but I was able to see it, and I was just, as soon as, my gloved hand touched it, I almost burst into tears, and I was like, what an A+ impression to make on someone by just weeping all over an artifact that has never seen salt water, and that's why it's holding up so well.
Just your tears are going to...
I was able to keep it together, but I get what you're saying, where it's just your hands, and it sounds so stupid and cliche, especially for some flat affect bitch like me, but you put your hand on it through a glove and you're just like,
yeah, well, because it's such the symbol, it's just a powerful thing. It's just, holding up for, over 100 years, so...
This is tangentially Titanic related, but I want to talk to you about that movie. I didn't finish SOS Titanic. Have you seen that one? This is made in 90s, not 90. This was made in 79. It is very 70s. Ooh. The hair is pretty A+.
Okay.
But one thing I liked about it was that, so it focuses, there's no fictional people in there.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
It hops around between a bunch of the real life people. David Warner's in it. He plays Lawrence Beasley.
Okay.
And Helen Mirren is in it, who plays a woman that I don't think says a single fucking word the entire movie.
Well, it's okay. She says everything with her eyes.
That's fair enough, but I'm going to come back to that. But one thing I did like about the portrayal of John and Madeline Astor was that they really kind of leaned into the age difference. Like, they didn't do that thing where they made her look older and him look a little younger. They were like, man, this is Beethoven with some mutton chops. And I swear, at one point, she had her hair in fucking pigtails. I mean, like, it was that obvious. Where it's just like, you know what? I respect the fact that they're like, hey, do you get it? Do you get it? She's a kid. Do you get it? Do you get the age difference? It's like being hit over the head with the iceberg itself. Bong! Do you understand? She's a child. But I like that they were willing. Oop, I just punched my microphone. But I did like that they were kind of willing to do it because, I mean, Astor wasn't a big focus. They weren't a big focus in the 97 film.
Right.
But I remember that, like, tiny 2-second glimpse you look at them. She looks a little not 19, and he looks a little not in his 50s.
Does not. Yes. No.
It looks a lot less like it is, whereas this one's, like, a girl in a white nightgown and pigtails.
Oh, so innocent. That's the innocent costuming 101. Put her in white. Pure innocent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but sorry, speaking of Madeline Astor. Not really.
But not really. But you got to touch her life vest, so.
I did, which is banana. I think the thing that struck me the most about it was how hard it was. Because, you know, if you've ever, I mean, you just talked about going tubing, so did they make you wear, like, a life preserver or life belt or anything?
Yes.
And they're kind of spongy.
Yes.
They're pretty spongy.
I think the technology has come a ways.
I mean, I know I've heard it over and over. They're like, cork and canvas, canvas and cork. I'm like, oh, no, that's what it made of. And then you touch it, you're like, oh that is cork and canvas.
Yes. Yeah, and canvas is not, it's, you know, brushing
It's
against
rough.
your skin. That's, you know, it wasn't.
No, so you have that tied around you, like an egg carton, but a big egg carton filled with stuff, just tied around you for hours and hours and hours. I'm like, that is just, what a miserable thing to experience.
Well, I think that is the least of the miserable parts.
Oh, I'm sure, but it's just one more thing.
Yes.
It's just one more thing where it's like, and this, and that. Like,
I mean, I had to, when I took swimming classes as a kid, like, we were forced to go off the high dive in full clothing. One of the days that we had to come in for swimming class.
What?
Required to come in.
That's I mean, like, I understand the concept where it's like, you may fall in a pool one day with your clothes on.
Well,
but
I
like,
think it was more fall. It was a high dive. It wasn't.
But that's
like
what I'm saying. I'm like, then they should have had you do it from the lip of the pool. Or at the very least, the normal little dive where it's like 2 feet.
If you're falling off a cruise ship, you're not falling from...
Okay, but like... Never mind. Please continue your story. I have so many holes.
No. It's fine. I'm just saying, like, that was the thing. So
I believe you. I just think it's dumb.
So the weight of your clothing, once it's wet, it's, you know, I mean, it's fine, but it is something to consider.
Yeah.
So you've got the weight of your clothing. If you were, you know, if they were in the water, your clothing is super heavy. And then like, I wasn't even wearing layers. So if you're in a gown with all the layers and whatnot, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, you kind of see it a little bit in the Cameron film when Rose is coming back to Jack with the axe and she has to ditch her coat.
Yeah, because
it's just too much.
Yep.
I mean, I have fallen in. I can't remember when or where because that would be useful to the story. But I have definitely fallen into a body of water with my clothes on.
Okay.
Like the pool, maybe because I was
Spring
too
break
close.
'96. It's fine. I'm just kidding.
I would have been 7 years old.
I'm kidding.
But otherwise,
my age. It's
I was
fine.
also such a boring person. I didn't go on spring break. Anyway, no, I went on all the spring breaks and it was amazing. I had so many admirers. It was great. But I do remember falling in, and I'm a pretty capable swimmer. My mom always made sure I was I was in swim lessons and then swim team when I was young. But having shoes on your feet, can almost make or break it for you.
Yes, I mean, can you imagine somebody with steel toe boots going in?
No fucking way. And I mean, I was only wearing, I don't know, Keds or some shit, but I had socks and shoes on, and I'm going to be generous and say it was the summer, so I probably had shorts and a t-shirt on. So not a lot, but enough to make a difference, where if you're used to just swimming in a pool properly dressed, you don't realize how much the drag of a t-shirt's going to get you.
I mean, and then also, you know, panic and shock will set in if depending on how strong of a swimmer you are. And
perfectly normally temperatured water,
are you falling in are you falling in a pool or are you falling in the ocean, which has got waves and currents and fun things going on, so.
Can you see, or like, is it off of a boat in the middle of open water? Can you see, because you can panic really easily even if there's a boat behind you, just not being able to see, like, the lip or the shore, because you're like, there's nothing.
Yeah. So.
And the other thing that at the museum that I like is that there's 3 areas, not areas, but like little ramp areas that recreate the ship.
Ooh.
Where they show you the 3 different angles during the sinking. Like, this is what an extra G angle would look like. This is, and you can kind of run up them. And The first time I went to the museum, because I am a child, I specifically wore a dress and heels because I was like, you dress up nice when you're going to meet people you're excited to see.
Oh.
I was like, I know it's not a real person.
The earliest cosplay. Good for you.
It wasn't even like an attempted cosplay. It was just like, I feel like I should look nice. And then I did that thing where I was like, all right, well, I see these 3 ramps. I'm gonna give this a go in my dress and fucking heels. And I will say that the heels I was wearing are modern, but they were kind of the right shape and size.
Okay.
That might have been in the 1920s. They weren't like some massive heels, and they were kind of a little bit
like
thicker.
Heel, like.
Exactly. So similar. And again, this wasn't a heavy dress, but it was a dress, and it wasn't even a long one.
And so the angle just...
I could make it up 1, the first ramp. I don't remember how big the angle was, but it was kind of reasonable. 2 was a little bit of an adventure. 3 I could do, but it was like, number 1, you had to kind of run at it.
Yeah.
Number 2, you had to be holding on tight. And again, number 3 was 8 feet long. I wasn't running up the whole deck of the damn thing.
Right.
I could not even imagine. And the other thing I couldn't imagine was then trying to play an instrument at an angle.
Uh-huh.
Like, are you off your mind?
Yeah.
I can barely play the violin in heels.
I have balance issues already.
Yup.
So,
Yup.
I did play the clarinet as a kid, but I guess that would be the easier, violin would be a little bit more...
Either way. I also wouldn't even want to, like, sing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
The cold air? No, thank you.
I scared the shit out of Craig, though, because I was, like, trying to do that thing where I held up my arms like a violin and I tried to lean to see how far I could go, but he thought I was actually falling. I was like, I'm not, I promise.
No.
He tried to catch me. I was like, I'm sorry.
This is awkward. I'm sorry.
I know. I was like, sorry. But it's a good museum, though. I think that if you're a Titanic fan, it's worth seeing.
Yes.
I will say that unlike the artifact exhibits, which I haven't seen in person myself, but what I do like about the museums is, like some of the better put together museums, like I think it's one of the reasons I really like the Holocaust Museum here in DC, is that it follows a narrative thread. And that's not to say that you can't have an impactful museum if it doesn't have a narrative thread, but...
No, but if there's a path to follow that, leads up and builds and makes sense, and, you are going through you are immersed in what they have given you as an event, and so it helps give you a better point of view a little bit. I mean, obviously we're not recreating things, but, something, because you need some sort of gauge as to what was all going on at the same time. So, but it, obviously you're being fed it in pieces, whereas they were experiencing everything all the thing at the same time.
Sure.
So, it's not the same, but I agree that would be that's a better way to go through and process information, especially for a tragedy.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that it also works because it shows how you get there. Like, again, in the Holocaust Museum, it doesn't just start at the door of Auschwitz.
Right.
We start beforehand, or it's like, this is what happened. And when you when you go to the Titanic Museum, they give you a little fake boarding pass with a little info about a passenger. And as you walk through, it's like you start with the pretty parts of the ship and you look at the area around it and things of that nature.
Right.
And as you walk through, then you see the room that's super cold, and you see the recreation of the bridge room, and et cetera, and it kind of helps you put things together as you're going through, where you're able to start at the beginning and end up somewhere. Whereas, like, I've been to art museums and I like art, but there's no friggin' narrative anything in an art museum. All you just do is bounce room to room and look at paintings.
True. And then some of the rooms are categorized, and they have special exhibits, but
For the most part.
For the most part, I can understand where it's not a straight line. It's more of like a cluster.
Right, and it's not even like it needs to be all the same artist in one room, but kind of like, why did you put these together in this room? Maybe if you explained that, it would make a little more sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like, well, that's a painting of a horse, and that's a woman exposing one breast for no reason.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's probably the overall category, but yes, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure there is a very large reason, which is when it's presented as not that way. Like, if you took the narrative context out of the Titanic museums and you removed all, like, the fun facts or blah, 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 and the interactive portions and just had the exhibits, it wouldn't be as interesting.
Well, true. I get that.
It wouldn't be as fun.
I understand. That makes sense.
Speaking of fun, What is your opinion on, like, they have the recreation of the Grand Staircase there. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the weddings?
Weddings that take place there?
Yeah.
So, to each their own. Mm-hmm. Like, I am a huge Titanic enthusiast, but I don't think I'm at the point where I need to get married at the Grand Staircase, but I'm not downing anybody who does, because obviously you do you, because, you know, and I mean, I think I would be enthusiastic. I'm always enthusiastic at weddings. I don't even, if I don't even know them, I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting for you. So I'm just like that. Oh my gosh, it's so adorable. So I would be like all for it. I get that's not everybody's jam, but you know.
Well, I think it would be really, really good for photos. Yes. I will say though, I have attended a wedding there for people that I don't know. Jamie and Joanna, I hope you're doing well. I do. I mean, like in the same fashion, where it's like, I'm happy for you. Yes. You guys got married. Like, yes. I don't even know where they live. I don't even know if they're ever going to hear this, but if they do, congrats.
Congrats.
It was a really lovely place, but you've been there. It's not. There's not a lot of like the Grand Staircase doesn't lead to like a big room.
Yeah.
It's in this situation. It's just a hallway kind of. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of places for people to sit.
Right.
That was kind of the downside, where it's like, oh, it's a bummer. But the one thing that annoyed me, and this is a me thing, because I'm very uncomfortable with character actors.
Ah, okay.
Was that the officiant continued to refer to himself as the captain of this ship.
Oh.
And it was really annoying. Because he would keep saying things like, and as captain of this fine ship. It's like, sir, I'm standing in the doorway to the gift shop. I don't buy the illusion. I'm sorry, it's not working for me. It's like, I can't.
I mean, maybe they were just at a loss for what else to do to make the
No, I think it's
ceremony.
just what they're supposed to do. I imagine that if you get married by their officiant, he's dressed in the white Star Line uniform. I bet you that's just what happens.
So time out, because do they actually have the services there, like, as an option?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, you get married there. You can only get married at 8 a.m, by the way, in case you were curious.
That's a morning wedding. Okay.
That's before the attraction opens.
Ah, okay. Well, I mean, you know, Disneyland does the same thing where you have to get married before or after hours, so I get that.
It makes sense. But like I said, I don't like character actors. They make me uncomfortable, especially character actors that aren't that... Like, if you're wearing a full mascot uniform and I can't see your face, it's fine. But it's like something about the visible... I don't know. It's the... So I was at Universal Studios a few years ago with my mom and my brother, and we went to this restaurant that's steampunk themed. It's also attached to like a chocolatier. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I have not been to Universal's yet.
It's a really, really cool...
Oh, no, I'm excited. I'm hoping I go, like, next year.
Yeah. No, this place is really cool. It had pretty reasonable food, and it was attached to, like, a little chocolate shop, like, an actual chocolate shop, because that was the premise of the thing. And I was kind of cool with it, because I was like, it's not based on anything. It's not, you know, Harry Potter. It's not Disney. It's whatever. It's just a restaurant.
Right.
No, they had fucking character actors. They had whatever the woman they created to name this restaurant after bustling about, followed by a robot. And I'm like, surely they won't come over to our table because we're 3 tired-looking adults. I mean, they almost made a beeline for me. I left. I went to the bathroom. I was so annoyed at the cause. I was like, I can't talk to a human being. I can't talk to a 25-year-old in a dress who is like, oh, and what peculiarities might we have going on today? Shut up, Bridget. How many roommates do you have? Like I said, I think this is a me thing.
They are probably just, you know, just out of college hackers that just wanted a really cool part. And, like, you know, instead of just serving, they get to do a little character bit.
They have to meet with some lunatic from Maryland who has to run away.
Yeah, customer service.
I wasn't mean to them. I must make that clear. I wasn't like, go away. I was mostly just like, oh, I have to use the bathroom, and just left.
Well, but also the character actors should be able to gauge how much the, you know, because there's a point where, you know, you want to engage, you know, the customers, but you also don't want to turn them away. So it's just based on them reading. So if they're not very good at reading the audience, read your room. If they're not very good at that, then you know, that's something to work on. But
I think also part of the problem is my mom's too nice, so even if I'm being rude, she's one of those people that has a... Yeah. I love my mom. Love you. Mom, you're a saint. She doesn't listen to this fucking show. I don't think she would know how to listen to this show if she thought about it consciously. It's fine. It's fine. But it's... I think it's a me thing. I know it's a me thing, but it was still like...
No, but there's, but also you have to think about, well, you did walk into that restaurant.
I didn't think... Never mind. Why would I assume there's character actors for a thing that doesn't... Never,
It's probably...
It would be like if I set up a restaurant for some goddamn reason and had someone cosplaying as me wandering around. Titanic Talk Lines isn't that much of a fucking thing. Would you need someone pretending to be me and like a fake Leto wandering around? It would be so weird.
Probably not, but it's also... Where were you? A theme park? Okay.
This was kind of outside of... Because like... Okay... I had never been to Disney or or Universal or any of that kind of place before. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize not only how big it was, but the fact that outside of the parks themselves, there's like those affiliated but not with, quite Disney attached. And, it was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those areas. So park adjacent.
Yeah, so you're just trying. So it's getting like some of the park experience without paying as much.
Look, if you have to invent a character, you don't need to have an actor for them because they're not important enough to merit one.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry, Bridget. I don't even know if that's her name. I'm just calling her Bridget.
Making it up. Oh.
Because I had it.
I mean, I don't know. As a theater graduate,
You're also a lovable Disney nerd.
Yes, I am a Disney nerd, so I would play along immediately, so...
It makes me uncomfortable.
So...
I dressed as Daria just for Halloween a few years ago, and I went to a trivia night with a friend, and I mean, obviously, I think I'm hilarious, so I was laughing, having a good time, and someone was like, it's so weird to see Daria laughing, and I almost punched them. I was just so mad. It was like, I'm not Daria! Like, sit down. I don't know why this bothers me so much. This is a me thing. I told you.
Yeah, I cosplay, so I
have done that too, but I think I'm also just kind of like, dude, I have a cell phone. I'm clearly not American McGee's Alice. Like, I don't know where the illusion here.
That's okay.
Have you ever done because you do a ton of cosplay, but most of the ones that I see from you are like mostly Disney, a couple outside of it. Have you ever done like a Titanic cosplay?
I have not.
Okay, I feel like you should fix that.
But I will tell you this. I'm actually, next summer, I am going to be going to, this is like an adjacent thing, but I'm going to be going to the Grand...
I just talked about character actors for like 20 minutes.
I'm going to be going to the Grand Hotel in Mackinac Island, and that is where the movie Somewhere in Time was filmed, which I'm going to go and cosplay as, because my name, McKenna, came from... that movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Jane Seymour plays Elise McKenna, and her manager is played by Christopher Plummer, and he calls her in several times. Instead of calling her Elise, he just calls her McKenna. And my mother, pregnant and crying, was like, "This is amazing!" So that's how I got my name. But anyways, they have Titanic weekends, and they have Somewhere in Time weekends. So, yes, because of, pandemic, things stopped, but, they, in years past, they've had both because their, their hotel is beautiful. It's, all the rooms are individually decorated and, it looks beautiful. And the island itself, you're not allowed to have motorized vehicle except for emergency services.
Which sounds amazing, honestly.
Yes. So, I'm going to go cosplay, hopefully next summer, when I go for my family reunion as Miss Elise McKenna.
Love it.
So, but they did, I'm hoping they do again, have Titanic weekends.
Nice.
Yes, and it's a package where they have historians come and talk as, whatnot.
Oh, yeah, that's like the con.
It's not quite Titanicon.
It was pretty, so the other, convention, I don't mean this in a mean way, but like convention I think is the wrong word. I think conference is a better word. It was quite small. There was only about 25 or so, about 24 people, so it wasn't a big mill about convention. It sounds more similar where, you would attend sessions.
So what I read, because I haven't been, when I think I looked this up maybe like 2 summers ago, I'm not sure, so this probably has changed. And if it doesn't happen anymore, it's very sad, but it sounded cool. So I hope you do it again if you haven't. But
clearly they're listening to this show.
Hopefully you're all listening. But it was, going for lectures and historians. I'm sure there was like watching the movie, but there was also having meals, in their dining room, and everyone was to dress the part. And then they had like photo areas set up, that you could take pictures with the backdrops. So at least that's what I noticed. And it wasn't horrifyingly expensive. Like when I was like, oh, but it was also for like 2 days, and it's like, okay, well, you have to get there and whatnot. So, but
I just Googled it, and it doesn't say anything about 2022. The last thing I saw was them saying that the 2020 Titanic at the Grand had to be postponed to 2021.
Yeah.
But it might be something that they might consider doing now that things are starting to open back up again.
That's what I'm hoping, yeah. But, so that is a goal for me to go to that.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm actually working on... It's a little teaser for people, but I'm actually working with a few people that... all of whom have been on my show before. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling people which ones, but we're working on putting together some sort of conference convention in New York because the Titanic Memorial Lighthouse in New York is in need of repair, moving, refurbishment, all those things. Mm-hmm. And yeah, one of the things that we really want to do is kind of a lot of the previous or currently existing Titanic gatherings really, really focus on, it's not to say this is a bad thing, but they focus on the ship.
Yeah, okay.
Exclusively on the ship. And it's not to say that that's a bad thing, but I think that there is a lot of room to bridge in the movie because that's where a lot of the new wave of people to the community are coming from. I mean, that's how I found Titanic. I was 8 when the movie came out, and this isn't meant to be like a weird question, but how else was I supposed to have found out about Titanic at the age of 8? I hadn't been introduced to it in school yet.
Right. You weren't forced to write a report on it.
I mean, I'm sure that would have happened.
I don't even know why we were supposed
to. But
a
lot of people have had to do like school units on Titanic.
Yeah.
But it's that's how I found out about it, and that led into my interest of the thing in general, but that's what we're trying to bridge it out. We want to have like a costume contest for the movie and a costume contest for just like period dress.
Right.
But one thing that we really want to do is try to involve the steampunk community, and we're going to have a a best Titanic steampunk costume
that would
contest.
Be fun.
Yeah, and that we kind of want to do the same thing where, we have some people come in and do sessions and have a space for people to really just mingle and talk. Because not everyone can get to Tennessee.
No.
It's a little bit farther away. I know that New York is expensive, but for people who live in the East, on the East Coast especially,
train ride or bus ride.
There's ways to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a thing that we're hoping to do. And we're going to have a smaller one maybe next year just to kind of
get feelers out. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So I will keep you posted on things like that.
Yes, please.
But I think that the community in general needs to do more of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just we're getting farther and farther away from the wreck. We're over 110 years away from this thing.
Right.
And all of the original descendants are gone. And when Milvina Dean was the only one left, I mean, like, no offense to her, she was an infant when she was on the ship. She didn't remember anything.
No.
And she even says that the whole life. She was like, I don't fucking remember anything. Those weren't her exact words. I'm paraphrasing. But
close, pretty much.
Right, but I mean, it's not to say she wasn't qualified to give talks, but you invite her to give a talk and be like, how did you escape Titanic? And be like, didn't you read...
Arms.
Right, like, did you not read every story about me? What was it like? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, how cold was it? Very?
Yeah.
And...
I mean, for that, I would think she would be able to be like talk more about her mom.
And that's exactly it. But the thing is that the survivors are all gone.
Yeah.
The first, quote unquote, first generation of descendants are mostly gone. Mm-hmm. We're losing their children.
Yeah.
And the further and further away we get, the more important it is to preserve the stories before they're too far away to verify.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I appreciate the Titanic community keeping her stories alive, but I think one thing that they may have forgotten to do is to open that door to the movie fans, because that rabid fandom is what's going to keep these stories alive, man. Like,
right. I mean, I think I watched James Cameron's like 20 years later thing, but I also watched like, did they get the Titanic sinking right, stuff like that. It was such an interesting thing to watch because usually movie makers have movie maker magic, but I he obviously was impassioned about it, and like for me watching that was very exciting, but I can understand getting more people to, because he made the movie, but then he also looked back and, he's been he's gone diving down to the site multiple times.
Yeah.
So,
I think he currently holds the record for most dives to Titanic.
I'm sure. But yeah, that was super interesting. And, I think hopefully getting people to see that with the movie, pulling it beyond. So I think absolutely bringing in Titanic fans, but, introducing them to more than just the movie.
Right. It's the human connection, because a lot of what I think, I say this a lot, this is my opinion, is that what attracts a lot of people, and this is also for me, to the movie, is the fact that in addition to Jack and Rose, who are fictional, you were able to connect to the characters. And when you were able to connect to Jack and Rose, and then you see things like Jack's friendship with Tommy and Fabrizio, you see Rose's sort of friendship with Thomas Andrews, you then kind of are able to extend that empathy to those characters.
Yes.
And it helps you to touch on the notion of the historical. Because, Victor Garber is just damn charming, so no matter who he plays, you're interested in. But it's like, he plays a very interesting person.
Right.
You start just looking into his history, and then you start looking into maybe the Stokers and the people who were here and the mechanics. And for me, my interest was in Officer Murdoch, so that's what pulled me in personally. And you just need to find that one person to get you interested in the fact that it was a beautiful ship that made a beautiful movie, but it was also a thing that caused the death of 1,500 people prematurely.
Right.
It was sad, and it's really, really important that we remember that.
Of course.
And I feel as though we're doing a disservice if you don't engage like that Venn diagram. You got to close those gaps, because again, we're losing those people.
Right.
We're, the people like Robert Ballard and what have you, he's not old, but they're getting older. Right. We're eventually going to lose them. The original explorers, the original people who wrote the books. Yeah. And one of the grandson of a survivor, that almost sounded very weird. His father was 9. This is Frank Goldsmith, was 9 years old at the time of the sinking. Frank Goldsmith Jr. is 85.
Yeah.
By the way, he does not look 85. When he mentioned he was 85, it was like, no, the hell you are not. Why would you stand in front of these good people and lie to them? But, I mean, the thing is, we're getting closer and closer to being at a point where we can't go back to the first-person sources.
Right.
We're already there.
Right.
Frank can tell us about his grandfather, but we can't ask his grandfather anything.
No, it's all hearsay, yeah.
Exactly, and it's not to say that they're bad stories or, it's just, we're getting to that point where we need people to come in and actually hear them before they're completely gone.
Right. I don't know if this even happened, but it would have been great to do some recordings. You know how they do that for World War II, voices before they, I wish they had done that for my grandfather, because he fought, in the Pacific, but it would have been really cool to gotten that. So, I don't know if it happened, but that would have been an amazing thing to try and do.
There are some, if you go on YouTube and stuff, you can find clips and recordings of some of the survivors giving interviews and testimonies.
Right. And I know some of their journal entries and whatnot were also preserved, which is great.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just, I just feel as though, I mean, again, this is all my opinion, but one of the best ways to spread a story is by hearing it. And it's the little personal details that stick out to you. I got to talk to Angelica Harris, who, she married into a family that had 2 young men, uncles of the family, die on the Titanic. And it's not that I don't remember their entire stories, because it's a lot. But I like the little details she told me. There's a picture of the 2 of them, and there's these little I think they call them cameos, but little portraits of them. And one's wearing, I think it's a bow tie, and the other's wearing a little silk orchid. And Angelica says that, their mother made those for them and said, if you ever get your photo taken, or just when you feel happy, I want you to wear those and think of home. And it's little stories like that are easy to grab onto and carry with you.
Absolutely.
And then it's I remember the Brocchio brothers because they told me the story. And it's not to say the others are unimportant, but it's just when you get bogged down in details of and so was this person, and so was that person, it's too much.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
You need those little human nuggets.
Yeah. No, I concur. That's good.
At least that's how I think about things. I don't know. Dog finally quieted down.
Yay!
I think he finally figured out that I wasn't going to play with him. But, tell me. What was your tea? Did you like your tea?
It's okay.
We have Titanic teas. We got two different blends.
And we are drinking them out of beautiful cups that mimic the pattern that was on the Titanic.
Yes, it's the wisteria pattern. I think this was from the a la carte restaurant, first class.
Very exciting.
Or the cafe. Can't remember. One of the two.
I don't know. They're beautiful. So
they are very pretty.
But yes, I have the Thompson's tea.
Yeah, and I have the Harney and Sons one.
So, and we put a dash of honey in mine, but
mine as well. I like mine. Mine was good.
Yes, mine is, even with the dash of honey, is a little bitter for my taste, but I am a sweeter tea fan. So
yeah, we were talking about that beforehand. I like a little bit of sweeter tea.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still good. I would drink this. I just yeah, I'm a lighter, sweeter kind of tea fan. So
I'm also a lighter, sweeter tea fan.
So, and yours is not. You didn't find yours lighter.
No, I actually thought it was a pretty good, solid black tea blend.
Okay. Yes, mine was noted as a luxury blend.
I think mine was referred to the same.
Okay.
Yeah, yours was as described as saying, "It's so good it may have even graced the table of Thomas Andrews."
I'm sure he was drinking his tea.
I'm sure he was. I love whenever you see a sign in a window. It's like best hamburger, voted #1 hamburger. I'm like, by who?
Exactly.
A self-review is not worth the shit it's written on. Like, I need you to just breathe for a minute on that one. Get your quality statements under control.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I have a weird question. Mm-hmm. This is just a me thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the heart of the ocean?
The jewel itself, or or taking that route of using it in the story?
Both.
Oh.
Both, maybe?
I mean, I can definitely see the heart of the ocean being something like that made. Like, if you've gone to the natural history museums, you can see some.
It's based on the Hope Diamond,
right? Like, for example,
which, hot take, not that cool in person.
I mean, it's okay, yeah, all right.
Well,
sure.
Part of the beauty of it, I'm sure, is how beautiful and faceted and how it catches the light.
Right.
It's behind glass, which reflects all of that light, and you don't get to see any of the things that make it.
They do have specific lights pointing on it, but it is rotating around. So, I mean, it's wonderful. I think it's nice, but
it's worth seeing, but it's not worth gawking at for 3 hours.
In the same room, if you go to see the Hope Diamond at the Smithsonian,
that whole museum is amazing.
It is amazing. It's one of my favorite
Natural
places.
History Museum, yes. A+. I could spend a day in there.
Yes.
No matter my age.
In the same area, they have several different, completed styles of jewelry from all over the world that
really
were made
beautiful bejeweled
extravagant
items.
So I can absolutely understand why that would be a cool thing
sure.
and make a
the
reason.
Hope Diamond as a concept is cool.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, I mean, I grew up going to rock and mineral shows, so I've seen both the natural form and then the cut forms. And, and I understand. I think it's cool. I mean, I don't think I would ever wear something like that, just because some of those things can be really heavy. Like, I have problems wearing earrings that have, like...
Oh, yeah, I have neck problems. When I'm wearing an empty backpack, sometimes my shoulder is like, oh, I'm dying!
Yeah.
Empty backpack, dude.
But, I mean, if somebody gave one to me, I would probably wear it. But it's not something I would go for immediately, but that's personal preference. I mean,
What do you think? And that's about the jewelry itself.
Yes.
But like the second part of the question that I didn't think of, but I would like to hear is what do you think about using it as like as a narrative device in the film?
I actually think it was a great segue because you've got people who are treasure hunting. That's a way to keep the interest of say investors that are looking for obviously shipwreck treasure basically. Yeah. I mean, it's not entirely
sunken treasure is one of the oldest legends or whatever. Yes. Legend's not the word I want.
I mean, I do like I think it was I enjoyed the way that they tied it into the movie. And
what do you think about it as a symbol of romance? Like, because people, I think now that's what it is. Like, a guy might buy his Titanic girlfriend a replica of the Heart of the Ocean. And
I mean,
it's very much presented in that way.
Sure. I personally don't, like, I don't need one as a Titanic enthusiast. I mean,
me neither.
When I went to the gift shop, I actually just got a little of the ship because that was a legit thing, like the heart of the ocean.
Welcome to punching your microphone.
Yeah. Okay. But personally, I wouldn't wear something that ginormous.
Okay, because hot take, I think it's trash. I think it's really ugly.
I think they had to make
understand
it look ridiculous
purpose.
And giant and gaudy.
Oh yeah, I get the purpose entirely.
That's why they would be searching for it.
I get the purpose entirely.
But
because like a 56 karat diamond, that's literally priceless. Like, are you out of your
right? And also think of the time that it was made, where it was excess. So
I agree, but I just think, especially as a symbol of romance, it's not. It was given to her by an abusive dude as a symbol of ownership, and people fawn over themselves about it now, which I don't understand.
Yeah. But she did look dreamy wearing it for,
of course she did, but she was wearing it as part of the classiest fuck you in history.
Only that. Exactly. So she used
but it was a whole point. Like, she wasn't wearing it like, this is so romantic. She was like, look at this trinket you bought me, motherfucker.
No, and then, I'm assuming she, after, found it, she probably sold it off. Well, I guess she wouldn't have been able to sell it off.
No, she didn't sell it off because
they gave it. But
kept it for no goddamn reason.
Well, no, because he had already claimed it as a loss.
No, I know, but it's like, woman, you could have fed in like 3 third world countries.
I know,
and instead you kept it in your pocket for what?
And then just
go back to your pottery. Oops. And then she died on someone else's boat. What is wrong with you? You brought your dog, your fish, and everything in your house, and then you were like, you know what I'm also going to leave behind for them? My corpse!
You know what? She's surrounded by all the things she loved. Almost. And then met the things she loved. I guess I
would be so mad if I were the crew of the Caldish. Because now I have to deal with the death in international waters.
Yeah.
Her granddaughter.
Yeah.
Who's probably there. It's like, I'm not a grief counselor. I'm a treasure hunter. What is happening?
That's a lot of paperwork.
She didn't even think about the aftermath.
Oh, it must have, yeah. That's a lot of paperwork.
Inconsiderate, Rose. Rude.
So rude.
So rude.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
No joke, though.
I'm sorry, like, what?
No joke, though.
So you threw the diamond.
Are in order, and
she threw the diamond away they were looking for knowingly, and then died on their boat.
Yeah,
that's such a fuck you to people who have been so
but you
nice.
Know what? Now they can do another search for it.
They have also left the site of the Titanic.
Oh, did they? I can't remember.
I think so, because it looks like they're moving.
Okay,
but still, it's just kind of like, woman. I like Rose as a character, but she does some stuff where I'm like, what is wrong with you?
She's an entitled woman.
I mean, she was born in 1885. I just did the math in my head, and she was white. Yeah, she was an entitled woman.
So that's why.
I know, but it's still kind of like, girl.
Yeah.
You're rude.
Also, you've been under the guise of your mother and, like, doing all the things to her and, like, it's basically like the spoiled brat.
Yeah.
But, has her own mind and means well kind of thing, but also just...
Yeah, Rose and her mom is a thing that, unfortunately, I do not think we have time to get into here.
No, that's a whole other episode.
But that is something I do want to talk about, because on a broad scale, Ruth is patently awful. She's a bad mom.
Yeah, but she's
very much a product of her time. But I also think that even for a product of her time, she's pretty selfish.
Yes.
In today's world, we'd be giving Rose a copy of Children of Narcissistic Parents.
Yep.
We'd be giving her a copy of that while we preoccupied her mom with trying to explain CryptoKitties or some bullshit. But that's what would be happening. It'd be like, we recognize this now as a massive problem.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to look at, because I think to myself, like, what circumstance would we have to be in for my mother to treat me like that? Because I don't think we ever would find ourselves in a situation where she was like, I am comfortable, essentially, selling my daughter.
Yep.
I'm good with this.
The family name. Well, actually, the name was... The name was technically still safe, yes, but
it's to save her. Because Rose clearly doesn't give a shit. She's like, if I'm poor, I'm poor.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I won't like it, but I'll figure it out.
Right. It'll be a very long adjustment period.
Yeah, it'll be uncomfortable, but I'll deal.
Yeah.
Because she's also young. Like, I was like, when you're a kid, it's way easier to adjust. It's like, she's 17, which is like a child, basically.
Yes.
Like, you can figure it out. You're resilient.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a good movie. There's a lot of stuff that's a little ham-handed, but one of the first things that you brought up, and I think is really important, is that it was a modern, extremely intricate, very accurate view of the ship.
Yes. I mean, I watched some of the specials, and I just was in awe because, you know, they would literally just take pictures and make them exactly. And it was just beautiful. So that spoke to my heart because, you know, it was a ship of dreams. And so it was beautiful. And, you know, they
and
built it.
Beautiful.
And what?
Uniquely beautiful,
yes.
too. It matters that it looked like it did.
Yes. And then they built it, and then they sank it.
I will say, one of the things about the 79 film was two things about it. I didn't make it all the way through because I got bored. And also, this was made before they discovered the wreck. So there's a lot of, because the wreck was discovered in 85.
That's right.
But one thing that really ruined it for me was that they shot what was supposed to be the grand staircase in a hotel. And I was confused. So I leaned over to my friend, because I had not been paying attention. I was like, is this before they get on? Did we get on the ship yet? What's happening?
Are we waiting?
Because we're in a movie theater, so I can't ask out loud. So I'm literally whispering to her. She goes, "No, this is supposed to be the grand staircase." And my response was to go, because that's what you're supposed to do in a movie theater.
Obviously.
But it took me out of it because it clearly wasn't the ship.
Yeah.
I can't even describe it.
Attention to detail is so important.
It matters, and, like, I get that you can't get every detail right.
Right.
Some things you just can't.
So, like, for one thing, I know that Neil deGrasse Tyson harped on James Cameron because the night sky.
I hate him for that.
Well, but
because
he
inspired a couple changes that I didn't like.
But I believe that in the 20th anniversary edition, he
did.
changed it.
He did.
It, yeah.
But there's another thing he fixed because it wasn't accurate that I don't like, which is in the I'm flying scene. The original background was this beautiful sunset. There was no clouds in the sky, and it was gorgeous.
Right.
And then they redid it. Someone was like, actually, on the night that would happen, there would have been this and this and this and that. And they added it, and it's just not as gorgeous. And the reason I think that was unnecessary is, number one, this is Rose's retelling.
Yes.
So when she's retelling the super romantic moment.
With the rosy glasses
exactly,
on it,
but she made
the rosy sunset.
She may literally not even remember there was clouds. In her brain, it might have literally been like the beautiful sunset. Because she's 17 years old falling in love.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought, and that's what I mean when people get like way too accurate, it ruins things. So it was like, it just wasn't
telling the story.
Exactly, and it made enough of a visual difference to, and like I don't normally harp on little things, but it made enough of a difference. Where it was like the scene is duller now. The scene is missing a little of its luster, and that's sad.
Yeah.
Because it's got that beautiful golden glow.
Right.
It's missing that because someone was like, actually, there was clouds. So I'm like, everyone stop Tysoning movies, okay? Unless it's a super big deal, I don't give a shit.
I do appreciate the night sky because the night sky was so clear.
That, I'll give it a difference, too.
And, you know, the water was calm and glassy.
And it didn't affect the lighting of the scene.
No.
Like, it didn't change this. But this changed the, like, color and the lighting of the scene. And that was so dumb.
No, I can see how that would
It just wasn't as good. I don't know. I hate it. I think I've made that clear.
Yes. Crystal. Like the water reflecting.
Like a mill pond. What is a mill pond?
I don't know.
That's not a real thing, is it? I've never looked that up.
Google it. I don't know.
I'm gonna...
I don't know. Oh. I don't know.
A mill pond. Like a pond. Okay.
With a mill attached to it?
Yeah.
That's my guess. Let's see what Google says. Mill pond.
A pool that is created by a mill dam.
Hey, look at that.
And provides the head of water that powers a watermelon. Great, fine.
All right. Look at that.
Okay, fine. Fine.
I feel like it's pretty accurate for what its description is.
No, it really is. It sounded like not a word. I don't know why that one in particular was sticking out to me. It was like, that doesn't sound like a real thing. Never mind. That's enough out of me. I've brought up and been wrong about like 6 things so far.
Absolutely fine.
It's fine. I don't care.
It's fine, please.
All right, well, we're coming up on my time limit with you. Is there anything I do my cold outro, so I'll give all your, like, plugs and stuff there, but is there anything else Titanic related you need the people to know?
No, just, if you haven't...
Where's this dog going?
Hello, darling. If you haven't, taken time to look into, if you're, like, the movie buff and haven't taken time to look into some of the real stories and other things, absolutely do it. Like, go...
Just even pick just one.
Yeah, just, I mean... I know that the museums have, at least the Smithsonian has rotating things, and, you know, that was a while ago for me, so I'm not sure what is still on. And they rotate things in and out. I mean...
I know the artifact exhibit is coming to New York next.
Yes, so maybe we go.
Yeah, I will go.
Take an adventure, you know, and, you know, when I had to do a report on the Titanic, it was with libraries, because it was, you know, pre-internet times. So, you know, you have all this information at your fingertips. So definitely check out some of that. Educate yourself. Go beyond the movie.
Yeah, a good place to start would be, you know, pick survivors or victims. I mean, that sounds weird, but just Google if you want to look up a survivor. Just Google,
even, the crew.
Yeah, or Google something just like Titanic crew, and then start at the top and go down.
Yeah, or even just like how the Titanic was made, and where it was made, and how much.
Looking at Belfast,
yes,
and the Harland and Wolff shipyards as a whole, really interesting.
There's even an entire, if you want to talk about another acting fun. There's an entire series called Titanic Blood and Steel, which I highly recommend. I only did one series of it, one season of it, and it ends with the Titanic leaving the harbor. So obviously,
maybe you can just immediately start the '97 film at that point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty much the same thing. It's fine. It's just like I say, it's the prequel. It's like the Rogue One to A New Hope. It's fine.
I dig it. I'm here for it.
Reference, okay.
That's canon now.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't mind a Star Wars reference. I own 2 lightsabers.
I'm saying if you are looking for something, it was a TV series, but it was so well made, and I was impressed with it. So if you are looking for more Titanic things and you want to extend, you know, into the fantasy realm, but they do a really great interpretation of building the Titanic and leading up to its launch. So I recommend that.
Awesome. Well, Kenna, thank you so much for stopping in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yay. I want to thank McKenna so much for coming on to talk. Well, that was flattering. So much to talk to me. If you want to get in touch with her, you definitely should. You can find her on Instagram. Her @ is CatHissEvermean. That is CatHissEvermean on Instagram. You can also get in touch with her via her band's pages. The @ all on Instagram. This is Instagram.com/wild-eyed-misfits, all one word. Instagram.com/generation.mixtape. And then Instagram.com/theclopperroadband. And that's spelled THECLOPPERROADBAND. And you can also find the bands on Facebook at facebook.com/wild-eyed-misfits, facebook.com/generation.mixtape, and facebook.com/theclopperroadband, and also see the description for McKenna's YouTube segment, and that will be linked in the description box. Thank you again so much for coming on, McKenna. Wow, I'm having a good time. Thank you, McKenna. I love you. I'm sorry I'm screwing up your name so much, and I will see all you guys in the next one. Bye!